The mainstream media has been criticized for its relentless coverage of global warming, with many arguing that it has become a propaganda tool to control the narrative and shape public opinion. While climate change is a real and pressing issue, the media's approach to reporting on it has been overly sensationalized and often misleading. This raises important questions about the motivations behind the media's zeal for global warming propaganda and how it affects our perception of the issue. One possible reason for the media's focus on global warming is to create a sense of urgency and fear among the public. By continually emphasizing the dire consequences of climate change, the media creates a narrative that we are on the brink of catastrophe and that drastic action is needed to prevent it. This narrative is often accompanied by calls for increased government regulation and control over various aspects of our lives, from energy consumption to transportation. By creating a sense of crisis, the media is able to shape public opinion and influence policy decisions, often to the benefit of powerful interests. Another reason for the media's focus on global warming is to distract us from other pressing issues. By dominating the headlines with stories about climate change, the media is able to shift attention away from other important topics, such as economic inequality, corruption, and social justice. This is particularly convenient for those in power, as it allows them to avoid scrutiny and maintain the status quo. For example, while the media is busy reporting on the latest climate change summit, it is less likely to cover stories about corporate malfeasance, government corruption, or systemic injustices. The media's approach to global warming also serves to reinforce a particular worldview, one that emphasizes the need for centralized control and regulation. By portraying climate change as a global problem that requires a global solution, the media is able to promote the idea that nation-states and individual freedoms are obsolete in the face of this existential threat. This narrative is often accompanied by calls for increased international cooperation and the creation of new global governance structures, which can be used to impose policies and regulations on nations and individuals. Furthermore, the media's focus on global warming has created a lucrative industry, with countless organizations, businesses, and individuals profiting from the fear and uncertainty surrounding climate change. From carbon credits to green technology, the climate change industry has become a multi-billion-dollar market, with many companies and individuals standing to gain from the implementation of climate change policies. This creates a clear conflict of interest, as those who stand to profit from climate change mitigation efforts are often the same ones promoting the most alarmist and sensationalized narratives. It is also worth noting that the media's coverage of global warming is often biased towards a particular perspective, one that emphasizes the role of human activity in causing climate change. While there is certainly evidence to support this perspective, there are also many credible scientists and researchers who question the extent to which human activity is responsible for climate change. However, these dissenting voices are often marginalized or ignored by the media, which instead promotes a simplistic and dogmatic narrative that brooks no dissent. In conclusion, the mainstream media's focus on global warming propaganda serves to create a narrative that is both misleading and manipulative. By emphasizing the dire consequences of climate change and promoting a particular worldview, the media is able to shape public opinion and influence policy decisions. However, this narrative is often accompanied by a lack of nuance and critical thinking, as well as a failure to consider alternative perspectives. As consumers of media, it is essential that we approach the topic of global warming with a critical eye, recognizing the potential for bias and manipulation, and seeking out diverse perspectives and information. Only by doing so can we hope to have a more informed and nuanced understanding of this complex issue.